Hey, it's Tani from Unraveled Motherhood. Today I wanted to talk to you about parenting lies that us moms can believe that make our motherhood harder. And so I want to share these with you because I know I've fallen into these traps before as a mom of 5. We have a teenager and we have 4, 7 and under. We've kind of been in a lot of the seasons of parenting. I just want to share with you these lies in hopes that you can make a better choice than I did. There's a lot of talking with the internet, and sometimes it's easy to get swept away by the popular parenting style. The main thing is you need to follow your gut over what professionals say. First lie that moms can tend to believe is that their child is just perfect thing, just so wonderful. Yes, your child is wonderful. Yes, your child is beautiful. But your child will have a tendency to do things that are not good. And that's natural for all humans. I don't know any human that doesn't have a tendency to want to do something that could hurt others or could be wrong. This is important to know because if we know that our children are going to make poor choices and they are not perfect, we can be free from this idea that I just need to serve them better. I just need to do more. I see a lot of moms struggling because they're trying to figure out what do I need to do so that he stops biting? What do I need to do? And it's all this pressure on them. When the reality is your child probably just needs to take responsibility for what they're doing that's wrong. They need to have some sort of consequence for their actions. If your child is constantly biting, you can't just keep removing them from the situation and expecting them to stop biting. There has to be some sort of consequence for their action that is meaningful enough for them to say, okay, my mom's not letting me do this, and my mom's actually giving me this consequence because I'm doing this, so I don't want to do this anymore. Otherwise, if you keep removing your child from the situation, they will just keep doing it again if they know they can get away with it. Sometimes natural consequences are not enough. Natural consequences are great for older children who are logical and can reason. Toddlers are not reasonable. You should know this. If you have ever had a situation where a toddler's involved, multiple kids are involved, and there's 3 different colors of wool, and they specifically want one color, and you try to not give them that color, you can reason, you can explain all you want, and they will still insist on that color. Same thing if you're having a treat, and your child just really wants that treat right now. But everyone else is waiting till after dinner to have that treat. And you give in and you say, okay, well, you can have your treat, but everyone's going to have it after dinner, so that means after dinner you're not going to get a treat. What happens comes to after dinner when everyone else is enjoying their treat and they're looking around and saying, where's my treat? And you're trying to explain to them, you ate your treat. It usually doesn't go well. Just remembering that toddlers are not logical, so having a natural consequence is not going to do much for them at this stage. Having a small consequence where they will remember that this is not okay, they will know that this is not okay, and having a stern moment with them and explaining to them that this is not allowed, and then reminding them why you love them, you're trying to figure out what caused that situation and helping them work through that. But again, toddlers, they're not logical, so you can do the logical stuff afterwards. You can give them good verbiage afterwards, but before that they need a simple and effective consequence that gets the point across. Another lie that moms can tend to believe is that your child needs to have a high self-esteem, and this is one I fell in the trap of because it's so prevalent that your child has to have a high self-esteem. You want to have a high self-esteem. You need to encourage them. You need to tell them like all their pictures are beautiful. Yes, you do need to speak words of encouragement over your kids, but building your child up so that they think that they are the best at everything, that they are amazing and wonderful and everyone should just basically worship them, is super damaging for your child. The reality is your child is not the most important person in the world. And for my Christian moms, we don't want our kids to grow up being prideful, to being self-absorbed and selfish. We want our kids to grow up to serve others, to be humble, if we want our kids to be humble and serve others, they can't have a super high self-esteem. And it's interesting because in this book that I'm reading, which I'll link down below, it's by a psychologist who's also a Christian who has come away from the idea of modern psychology for parenting and seen how damaging it is for kids. Children, or I guess adults, who tend to have a super high self-esteem tend to be the ones who are choosing criminal behavior or sociopath behavior, tend to be abusers, because what happens is they are so important in their eyes, the needs of others or what's good for others is not important to them. The ends justify the means, and I'm entitled to what I want, and whatever applies to everyone else, it doesn't apply to me because I'm so special. That's the kind of mindset that those people with really high self-esteem have. None of us want that for our kids. We don't want our kids to think they're better than everyone else. We don't want our parenting to reflect that our kids should be elevated. I think sometimes we can kind of get into this funk where we want our kids to be the best, or we think our kids are the best, or whatever. We just need to break through that. We need to, because when we build our kids up in our own minds as well, we're setting ourselves up for failure for when our kid does choose poorly or does fail at something or does. So let's not put so much pressure on ourselves and so much pressure on our kids, and let's remember that our kids are human and they're gonna make mistakes, and teaching them to serve others is gonna be so much more beneficial for their whole lives. When they go into a workplace, they will be better workers. If they go into higher education, or any type of education, they will do better work because they are not just doing whatever because they're gonna do good anyways. They are trying to do their best effort because they are not absorbed with themselves. They don't think they're the best. Teaching our kids to have more self-denial is a great way to help our kids to succeed in life in general. For parents who have more than one or are about to have another child, I think this is where that anger and jealousy can come from when a new kid is introduced into the family, because if your child is the center of your world the whole time, you do everything for them, everything is for them, and then you have this new child, and this new child as a baby needs more attention. They need a nurse or breastfeed or bottle feed. They need to be, rocked, burped, all these things that take your time. And if your center of gravity was always your first child, that center of gravity has moved to this other child, and that is super hard. So do yourself a favor and expand your motherhood to not be so focused on this one child, but to allow your child to be denied of time, of attention. Allow your child to have to wait for certain things, because that's how real life is. Because if we are constantly giving into every demand of our child, we are just creating a monster and making it harder on ourselves. So be careful to not allow yourself to be so absorbed with your child. Another lie that parents or moms can tend to believe is that we just need to distract our kids from whatever we don't want them to do. And I see this a lot with gentle parenting. It's distracting the kids and also bribing our kids. This is something that's super easy to fall into, and I think we all do it sometimes. We do want to share with them good things, but if that's constantly how we operate, our kid is gonna be entitled to something. When we are asking them to do a hard thing, they don't just do it for the sake of listening to the parent. They do it for the treat, for the show, whatever kind of reward you're giving or bribing with. Or you're distracting them from throwing something on the ground. So, look, we're gonna play with this toy. It doesn't solve the problem of the desire to throw something on the ground when your mom told you not to. The issue is you need to stop throwing things on the ground when your mom tells you not to. We are not doing our kids any favors by distracting and bribing them. And I say this because I know that I can do this. I know that it can happen. In some situations, you need to just distract because you're not in control of the situation. But when we're at home where our child is just choosing to do something that they know is wrong, blatantly choosing that, and we bribe them and reward them to try to get them to not do that, we're not teaching them that what we say matters. And that goes along hand in hand with threatening kids. So when we threaten our kids and we say, you're gonna have to do this timeout if you do that, and then we don't follow through, or you're gonna have to get this spanking, and then we don't follow through, we are shooting ourselves in the foot, because we're teaching our kids that if mom is stressed enough, if mom is distracted enough, if her friends are around long enough, we can get away with whatever we want, and her word only matters sometimes. She only follows through sometimes. So they're going to be constantly checking, testing out the waters. When we are not consistent with what we actually say and keeping our words, our kids are going to test the waters, because they're going to know sometimes I get away with this. Make sure that your word counts. Make sure your word is good, and try to stay away from bribing. And this is kind of the final point, is right consequences don't necessarily mean right choices. So we can be giving the right consequences, we can be calm, non-reactive, giving out our consequences to our child, showing them forgiveness, praying with them. We might be doing it all right, and we still might have a child who chooses wrong. That's the thing with free will, is that our kids, we can do all the right things and they can still choose wrongly. And so it's kind of a freedom in a way to remember that, because we can be doing our best and we can keep doing our best, because we know that they might choose wrongly, but we're going to just keep doing our best. We're going to still keep our head down, and eventually when they're older they will understand and they will hopefully make the right choice. And so when we parent, it's not about all the consequences, it's not about rewards, not about all these different things. It's about our leadership. And when we're consistent and our leadership is with unconditional love and discipline, our job as parents are to lead and guide our children, not to control them, not to manipulate them, not to just discipline them. Our job is to lead them well. And so good leadership looks like leading by example. It looks like serving them. It looks like giving them a consequence when they choose badly. A good boss doesn't just allow his workers to do something wrong. If they make a big mistake, a good boss will make them pay for it and help them make a better choice next time, and give them the tools they need to make a better choice and to grow from that event. So that's basically what we're doing. We're like the CEOs of this little company, and we're training up these children to learn how to operate in the real world, so that when they become adults and they are starting their own families and having their own relationships and their own responsibilities, that they can do those things well. They know how to submit to authority and right authority, and they know to discern between good and bad. I just want to encourage you that if you are struggling as a mom, we've all been there. It changes from day to day, and we're all just trying to do our best. So seek out the godly wisdom around you. Seek out the people that you trust and you know. So I hope this information was encouraging to you. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any questions or concerns, shoot me an email. I'll put it down in the description below. And I also will put this book down, Parenting by the Book. And this is a Christian book, so if you're not a Christian, you might not be as interested in this. But the information is really good, and he's talking about how psychology has really changed the way we parent. As before, parents used to kind of operate on in a biblical sense. Even parents who weren't necessarily Christians, the ways we parent have shifted since the 1960s. I hope that this will encourage you today. I hope that this will open your eyes to maybe something that you hadn't thought of, because this book surely opened my eyes and I just had to share that. So I hope you're having a great day, and God bless you. Bye.